Hey everyone, I'm here at Random Island. Now I've had a request to make videos about different Newfoundland habitats. This video is going to be the first of Newfoundland habitats. To be specific, the Rocky Intertidal Zone. Welcome to Tides and Shores. I hope you like this video. If you do, please press the subscribe button, and I'd love to share more videos with you. Now, there are two types of intertidal zones. The intertidal zone with hard bottom substrate, which means rock, and soft bottom substrate, which could be sand or mud. So there are a lot of different organisms you can find around the intertidal. You can find different types of algae, and by the way, seaweed is a type of algae. You can find wrinkle snails, you can find amphipods, and you can even find subtidal creatures in a certain part of the intertidal, the tide pool. Where these organisms can live depends greatly on the action of the tides. Now, what causes tides? The moon does. So, the moon has a gravitational force on the Earth, and that creates a bulge known as high tide. For example, during a full moon or a new moon, the tides will be strongest. It's known as a spring tide, where the high tides will be highest and the low tides will be lowest. And during a quarter or third quarter moon, the tide is known as a neap tide, and it's the weakest. So the low tides will be a bit higher than normal, and the high tides will be a bit lower than normal. You can often look at rocks and wharves, and just by looking at them, you can see that they look a different color at certain areas. Now what that is, that's known as vertical zonation. Now vertical zonation is the way that organisms grow along the rocks and the way they compete with different organisms. For a given organism, their location depends on what they can withstand from abiotic factors higher up and what they can compete with from organisms lower down. For example, the wrinkle. The wrinkle is very hardy. It can live higher up in the intertidal zone because it can handle a more extreme environment. But the waved whelk can do a lot better lower down, but can't survive where the wrinkle can. Vertical zonation can range from lichen-covered rocks to intermediate zones of air-tolerant organisms to the lower areas where the truly marine organisms thrive. Now, a lot of these organisms are sessile. What does that mean? That means that they're fixed to one position. They don't move. The tide pool, an oasis from a world of extremes. Hermit crab. Around some areas, you can have rockweed, a type of brown algae. Here are amphipods. They're the little things going around. Now, they're a type of crustacean. Green sea urchin. splash zone is never submerged by water. It only receives the splash of waves. You then enter the high intertidal zone, which receives the least amount of water of the intertidal and the most exposure to air. Once you enter the mid-intertidal, the ratio between water and air is fairly equal. The low intertidal zone gets the most water of the intertidal zone and is exposed the least. Then beyond my feet, you enter the subtidal zone, which is never exposed to air. I can't believe what I just found. So I was checking the subtitle, and I looked, and I found a predatory sea slug or a sea barfly. I've never found one before. This is the first one I've ever seen. So that would be an organism from the subtitle. It always has to remain submerged underwater. That was awesome. The intertidal zone is probably the most studied area of the ocean. But what's its relevance? For one thing, shorebirds, such as the yellowlegs, can feed on the different organisms found here. Several different food items can be collected from the intertidal zone, such as blue mussels, seaweeds, and even wrinkle snails. It's time for me to head back. I don't want to be caught here in high tide. Let's see how that turns out.